Hey, what's up, everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we are doing another edition in my series where I talk about 5 random CDs from my vast CD collection. You probably know the deal by now with these videos. I'm not going to do too long of an intro. These are just 5 random CDs from my shelves. Stuff I've been listening to in the car this week, or just stuff that maybe I haven't talked about on the channel too recently. So let's just get into this. Let's see, I got 5 really good albums for you today. And to kick it off, I am going to go with an absolutely beautiful artwork on this one. This is Obsequiae with Palms of Sorrowed Kings. So this is their 3rd album, their most recent album, actually. And yeah, just gorgeous artwork throughout here. Like, look at that album cover. Absolutely beautiful. If you're unfamiliar with this band, they are from Minnesota. This is melodic black metal, maybe hints of melodic death metal in there as well, with like the vocal approach. But this is very much on the medieval side of things. They even have someone in the band that plays the medieval harp. So they have a lot of these harp interludes that really just build the atmosphere and set the mood for this album. An album I've talked about a lot on this album was the one right before, Aria of Vernal Tombs, their sophomore album, but I haven't mentioned this one as much, and this one is almost as good. I have a really hard time picking between the two, to be honest, but yeah, the melodies that he writes here, the main dude behind the band, why can't I think of his name? I want to say Tanner Anderson, but let's double check that right now. Oh, I actually got it right. Tanner Anderson. There's a booklet as well if you want to see. Just really well put together stuff. Yeah, the melodies that he writes on the guitar are just beautiful. Like, they will stick in your head. And his vocals, yeah, it sounds almost like it would fit a melodic death metal band. This is the guy that sings for Majesties. So if you're familiar with that band, you'll kind of know what his vocals sound like here. But yeah, just really stunning stuff. The artwork draws you in even without hearing the music. Like, if you see that and want to know more about it, go grab the album. But yeah, best songs on here. The Palms of Sorrowed Kings actually features some guest vocals from Jake Rogers from Visigoth and Caladan Brood. Lone Isle features some guest vocals from Andrew DeCagnia from Iron Flame. He actually used to be the drummer in this band on their previous record. He doesn't play the drums on this record. But yeah, those are a couple highlights, but really front to back, just a solid goddamn album. Go check out Obsequiae if you have not. All right, up next, gonna switch up the genres here, go with some traditional heavy metal, and Sumerlands with their sophomore album, Dreamkiller. Kind of hard to see there with the sun. Hopefully you can see that. There's the booklet. Here's the back of the CD. So this is from a couple years ago, this album. It did see a change of vocalists from their first album. The vocalist they brought in on here is Brendan Radigan, who's been in a ton of bands. He's in Savage Oath, which is another great band that you should go check out. But here on Sumerlands, this band is very much inspired by like 80s Aussie, at least to my ears. That's what I hear with a lot of the guitars and just the overall vibe and atmosphere that they're going for here. It's really catchy heavy metal. It's got that throwback style. Another great album cover here as well. And there's just absolute highlights throughout. I loved their debut album, where actually the vocalist sounds a lot more like Ozzy than maybe this vocalist does, but well, they're not just trying to be a copycat of Ozzy. There's different influences in here as well. But I just really dig the style and vibe that this album has. Twilight points the way. Absolutely killer. Edge of a Knife, Force of a Storm. So many killer cuts on this album. Honestly, if you're just into a guitar-oriented album and want to hear some great 80s style riffing, definitely go check this out if you haven't yet. A solid album. All right, gonna switch up the genres here once again, this time with some death metal. I'm gonna go with Monstrosity and their album In Dark Purity. So this band, if you are unfamiliar, probably most well known for being the band that George Corpse Grinder Fisher came from before he joined Cannibal Corpse. This album is not a Corpse Grinder album. This was after he left. The vocalist here, I want to say Jason Avery. I got to keep looking in the booklets. Once again, I did actually get that right. So yeah, Jason Avery here, and he does an absolutely killer job replacing Corpse Grinder. You still got Lee Harrison on the drums doing the main songwriting, and this band just takes it up a notch on this album. The technicality of the drumming and the guitar playing here is so goddamn good. They write catchy death metal, still got the low and the high vocals, much like Corpse Grinder, very similar style. But yeah, this album just kicks so much ass. I'd probably still give the edge to Millennium, the last album Corpse Grinder was on, but this one is not too far off. You've got songs like Shapeless Domination, Suffering to the Conquered, Perpetual War, the title track In Dark Purity. Just front to back, this album rips. It absolutely shreds. They do a pretty killer cover of Slayer's Angel of Death on here to close it off as well. Another pretty cool album cover there as well. Just all in all, if you haven't ever given Monstrosity a shot, change that. Every single album they've released is solid. And yeah, this is one of my favorites by them. Definitely go give them a listen if you're into death metal at all. All right, up next, gonna go with one of my all-time favorite bands and an album by them that I feel is kind of overlooked in their discography overall. And that is Agalloch with Marrow of the Spirit. So this is their fourth record. And I know when you hear Agalloch, everyone's generally talking about The Mantle or Ashes Against the Grain. For me, my favorite is probably Pale Folklore. But not too many people seem to mention Marrow of the Spirit, and that's a shame because this album is truly magnificent. I love everything about this. Yes, they changed up their approach a little bit. Maybe some of the post-metal elements that really permeated the previous album, Ashes Against the Grain, aren't as out there on this album. They've kind of brought in more of the black metal back into their sound. But I would never just call them a straight up black metal band. Like, they bring in so many different influences, whether it's doom, the post-rock, post-metal. It's just got this cinematic feel to it. And this album, it just truly shines. One of my favorite Agalloch songs ever, The Watcher's Monolith, is on this album. The guitar melody that they played near the tail end of that song, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Black Lake Nidstein, which I probably am mispronouncing, pure standout on here as well. It's like 17 or 18 minutes if my memory serves right. But yeah, I don't know why this one doesn't seem to get the same love as albums like The Mantle or Ashes Against the Grain, because to me, it's right on the level. This is a goddamn amazing album. If you don't have it, definitely go listen to it. Listen to every Agalloch album because all 5 of their full lengths are top notch. But yeah, this one, absolutely gorgeous. More people should be talking about it. I'm surprised it's not more people's favorite Agalloch album, to be honest. All right, last but not least, we are going to switch the genres once again and go with some power metal. This time with a band that I used to listen to a ton, and I kind of just, not that I forgot about them, but it's just, this is an album that I hadn't pulled off the shelf in quite some time, which is a shame. I still listen to some of their albums quite often, but this one I just hadn't. And I'm talking about Iced Earth was Burnt Offerings. So here, this is a concept record all about Spawn. As you can tell from the cover, I'm always a sucker for concept albums. The artwork's really cool here as well. And yeah, I would never say this is one of my favorite Iced Earth albums. There's other ones that stand out more. But when I hadn't listened to this in a while, like, this is still a pretty goddamn good album. There's some killer tracks here, especially the closing trilogy. They always like to do those closing trilogies. The Suffering, they call the last 3 songs here, Scarred, Slave to the Dark, and A Question of Heaven. The ending to this album of those 3 songs is top-notch. Easily the best material on the album is those last 3, but there's still great songs on here, like the ballad, I Died for You. Violate is more of an aggressive song. But yeah, even though this isn't my favorite Iced Earth album, it's still pretty goddamn good. John Schaefer's guitar playing still shines. Yeah, I prefer some others, but still don't skip this one. I'll make sure that I listen to it more often. Just sometimes you have too many CDs. You don't always go back to ones. You kind of forget about them. And this is the case of what happened here. When I'm in an Iced Earth mood, this isn't usually the album I go for, but I decided to give it another spin, and yeah, it holds up. It's still a great album. So yeah, that's it for today. Those are the 5 albums that I felt like talking about. Hopefully If you haven't heard some of those, you can go check them out and give me your thoughts on them. Let me know what you think of these albums down below. And until next time, Hammer Heart Metal Reviews out.